All right, welcome back to How to Survive Dance Studio Life. My name is Amanda Scott, and I have the pleasure of speaking once again with Tiffany Henderson, who is an industry expert and the owner of 7 dance studio locations in California and the creator and founder of Twinkle Star Dance. Tiffany and I are excited to have you join us today as we dive into a series called Revenue and Recital. This week is part 1, revenue, and we are going to talk about money. Let's get started. Tiffany, in our conversations about preparing for this season, you said you were focusing on revenue and recital. Can you share some insight as to why?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as small business owners and being mostly female, we all struggle, with balance. And as I thought more about what puts us out of balance, it occurred to me that we plan a lot of extra things like events and rehearsals that don't really contribute to the overall financial health of our studios and really cause us to become far too stressed and really make it hard for us to relax at home. And I think we're often totally overwhelmed and confused about where to put all of our energy. There's so much going on. It's like, what is the most important thing?
Yes, absolutely. I struggle with this as a working mom and find it challenging to try to manage a household, my personal and professional life, relationships. I'm constantly trying to outsource things like using a grocery delivery app or something like that. So what are some ways in your business that you manage your time and decide where you're going to put your energy?
Yeah, I think just clearing the distractions, which for me actually can be like social media or obsessing over whatever crisis of the moment is happening at the studio. Sometimes I'll go to do something like, okay, I need to go email this person. And I go to do that. And at the same time, I get a notification that somebody liked one of my pictures from my cruise. And now I'm completely an hour later going, what in the world was I supposed to be doing? So, really trying to find those moments where you can just be focused. And then also to simplify the calendar. So as I mentioned earlier, we take on a lot of different events, and there's these carnivals, and then there's this thing we can do. And there's a lot of options for us as studio owners, which is really fun. But sometimes we put too much on our calendars, and now we're overwhelmed, and we've got too much to do, and we're losing focus of the most important thing. So eliminating extra events that don't contribute to the overall goal and focus of our studio, and the things that yield the most revenue and keep us healthy. And sometimes we don't even know what that is, but I figured out what that is, and that is your dance class revenue and your recitals. So I'm not just talking spring recital, maybe a holiday show or anything you're doing in-house where you're producing the performance or the production. And also, like I said, your dance class revenue. So that's it. That's the lion's share of what we're doing in this business. And sometimes we get distracted from that goal and focusing on that because of all the other things that are going on.
Yeah. And it's funny when you put it that way, it seems so simple. Like, of course we need to focus on our dance classes and recitals. But why do you think it is that we tend to overcomplicate things?
Yeah, I think there's 2 reasons. I think the first one's emotional. We are very closely tied, as we should be, to the well-being of our dancers. And we can place about 100% of our focus on training maybe our more intensive dancers. And of course, we're obsessing over the creative side of our job. And that's the fun side. That's why we're doing this. We love dance and movement, and costumes, choreography, and ideas. And that can take 100% of your focus. And sometimes maybe it should. But that's one of the reasons that we become distracted. The second one is that I think that we're mostly, I'm sure there's some exceptions to this rule, but sort of right side brained, right? We're not really that interested in the accounting part of our business and making sure every line item, every dollar and cent is going into the right category. But this is actually very, very important. And the reason that sometimes it isn't clear to us that our 2 biggest resources of revenue and class tuition and recital are what we should be focusing on, because we're lumping in our accounting all of our pass-through revenue into our general account ledger. You might be listening to this and going, what in the heck is she talking about? Well, if I'm talking to a dance studio owner when I'm doing my consulting and I say, tell me what your last month's monthly tuition was. And they give me a number, but I realize there's no way that's the number based on 200 students. Oh, it's because we put our costumes in there, and we also run our competition fees through that, in that one summary that we're bringing up. So when I'm asking them for reports, or when you go back and you're looking at your report and go, how much money am I making in class tuition versus other things? It's very hard to get that answer if we are lumping everything together. And if it wasn't, honestly, my mom is my controller, my accountant at the studio, and has been since I opened. And if it wasn't for her, I would 100% be still doing, I would still be doing that. And I wouldn't understand what was really happening. So once we separate our accounting, you'll find the cornerstone of the business, which is where all the money is coming in and actually has a chance of staying. When we talk about pass-through is money we're collecting on behalf of another vendor. So if we're collecting money for costumes, we're going to take it in and then we're going to give it back out. Same thing for competition fees. So it may look really healthy on some months, but at the end of the year, you're going, where's the profit? Where's the money that's left over? And that's really why. So keeping that simplified. And so those two reasons, emotionally, we just get distracted. And then the other part is that we need to be more organized in our accounting.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Tremaine who said during his acceptance speech that it's called show business for a reason, and that you need to have your business in order if you want to be successful. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that what that means is that once you determine and figure out, okay, dance class tuition, which we knew from the very beginning was the crux of our business, then we need to focus our entire energies on making every class at our studios excellent. So it really is still, again, with a dance studio business, I love what he said, because it's very true. It's a show, it's a business, but we have to focus on both, this is why this is very difficult. Most people, and I always use the example of the sandwich shop, but if they owned a Subway sandwich store, they're going to focus on selling sandwiches. They're not so much focusing on also, putting on a show while they're doing it, but that's what we have to do. So knowing that this is the biggest part of our business and what's going to yield us the most profit and make our businesses thrive, we have to pay attention to exactly what is being taught in every one of our class. So you have to know exactly what your teachers are doing. So maybe instead of attending a dance festival with 20 of your company kids, we need to replace that time with more teacher training sessions, because your teachers need resources, support, and motivation. And we need to dedicate more time to focus on helping them become the best they can be. And this is not to be confused with allowing your teaching team to bring their own dance school philosophy to yours. They have to adopt and believe in your mission and overall goals for your studio and your students. So you have to be clear with your mission from the very start, so that both parties, yourself and your teaching team or your teacher, understand if working on your team is the right decision for both of you. Because you want to make the dancers at any age or level fall in love with dance. That's what is going to make you the most successful. And this is only done through having them experience movement. So less talking and instructing in the first few weeks, and more movement will help retain more beginner and preschool dancers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that going back to talking about the show business part, of course we're so again, it's like, okay, we have to make sure that our teachers have what they need, but at the same time, we have to insert our energy into that classroom like we would be teaching the classes, and I think that's what's hard about it.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really good point. I know a lot of the studio owners that we work with through Twinkle Star Dance or through Diamond Circle don't realize that, okay, I'm a teacher, I love to teach, but once they open a business, now they are a teacher of teachers. They have to manage, that aspect of their business as well.
Absolutely. So I think one of the things we could do if you're listening to this podcast is ask yourself some questions to sort of find out where you are in and where you need to focus more of your energy, or maybe say, okay, I'm definitely doing too much of this, and I need to go back to the cornerstone of my business. So I think the first question would be, do you know exactly what is being taught in all of your classes, specifically your preschool or elementary school aged class ages? So if a mom called and asked about the content of these classes, could you answer honestly? If they're calling and saying, you know what, my Susie's taking the mini jazz class on Tuesdays at 4:15, and it just seems that they're just doing too much stretching. They're stretching for the whole class. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, they might be, right? But you're going to answer the question of like, of course they're not. Of course they're doing all these things. In any case, that could be happening even if you're doing your best job. But at that point, to go to that teacher and say, I've told you that we don't stretch that long. So at least hey, I've given them a roadmap. I know what is supposed to be happening, and I can answer that question honestly and let that teacher know, or that parent know, that you will go and speak to that teacher about what is happening. So I think that's the first question. The second one is, do your teachers understand and represent your studio philosophy and mission? Is this a conversation that has happened once or not at all with your teachers? And maybe, do you know what this is for yourself now? And has that changed since you first opened your studio? I think it can change. I'm going into my 20th year. And I think if I had written down exactly what I wanted to accomplish, or what my mission was for the dancers at the end of their time at my studio, it's probably very different than it is now. And so maybe either you've never done it because you've just been so busy, right? Or maybe we need to go back to that and just revise it and make sure that we sit down with our teachers and our staff and make sure they understand what the common goal is. The third one is, are you afraid to give your teachers direction? And conversely, are you afraid to give them any control? Right? So it's like, oh no, I can't tell them what to do because they have their own class, and then maybe they'll quit, or I don't want them to have any control, and I'm giving them everything here, but I'm not going to give them any motivation. I'm going to keep them like an arm's length away because I don't trust that they're going to stay and do the right thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I think as studio owners, sometimes we can feel both ways. And so asking ourselves that question and finding out where you are will help you get to the place where you can be a partner with your teaching team. They know that you're in charge, but you are helping them become the best they can be. So if the answers to any of these questions lead you to believe that you need to do some work in this area, you're definitely not alone. I think that as dance studio owners, we've all completely underestimated the amount of energy and time it takes to manage any group of humans. You know what I mean? So we thought, okay, we're going to come in, we're going to open the studio. We probably taught most of the classes ourselves, and we realized, wow, this is really hard. This is exhausting. We can't do this. And so then we hired people. But when we hired those people, we didn't account for the energy and time it was going to take to make them a part of our organization. But the good news is that your studio will start to thrive when you refocus your energy back into your classes and your teachers. And it really is that simple.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Tiffany. I know that's something that you're kind of implementing at your studios out in California. If someone wanted to connect with you after they hear the podcast, maybe have some more questions about how you hire, manage, or train your teachers, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me on Facebook, just as Tiffany Henderson. Also, my email address is tiffany@tiffanydance.com. And I would love to connect with anybody who has questions, or just go forward with their teachers, or really refocus their energy back into the most important part of their studio.
Great. And don't forget to tune in next week for part 2 of our series, where we're going to talk about Recital. All right. Thanks, everyone.